This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for the next couple hours. And then tonight, looking forward to seeing many of you down at the ballpark. Hopefully Mother Nature will take care of us. We certainly, for the entire week, didn't pick the nicest of evenings, but we're still certainly looking forward to having some great eats and hanging out with the Winnipeg Sports Talk crew down at the ballpark tonight for our first WST patio party. Thanks again for all the support. Looking forward to seeing you there as well. And who knows, we'll be paying attention to what's happening in the hockey game. Maybe go grab the third period as well after the ball game tonight, assuming everything goes on as planned, because Game 5 of the Cup Final goes tonight as well between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers down in South Florida. We've got lots to talk about today, though. We'll touch on the game. We'll also get into more on the Jets offseason with the hiring of the assistant coaches and moving on to next week's draft in Vegas. Of course, beginning next Wednesday, WST live from Vegas, the NHL draft presented by Coolbet is live. We'll have coverage on everything happening around the league with a focus on the Winnipeg Jets from Sin City Wednesday right through Saturdays, rounds 2 through 7 here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel for additional content as well from when we're down in Sin City. We're also looking forward to taking in the awards, seeing Connor Hellebuck, fingers crossed, win another Vezina trophy for the organization. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But today, we will talk puck with Mike McIntyre. We're also going to get ready for Week 3 in the Canadian Football League and welcome in a old friend of the program and a very familiar face to football fans here in Winnipeg and really across the country, TSN's Paul LaPolice, who has joined us in the YouTube realm. If you're listening on the podcast, next time you're on YouTube, in addition to making sure you're subscribed to Winnipeg Sports Talk, type in Paul LaPolice. Lapo's got a great channel that is just starting out. It is growing. Some really neat coaching film and breakdowns of different topics that Paul wanted to bring to the fans in the Canadian Football League. So give him a sub there and check out his work. But Lapo's going to jump on with us first up, then Mike, and then we're going to welcome in the new, speaking of assistant coaches, Moose assistant coach Morgan Klimchuk, who just got the job in the past couple weeks. Will be joining Mark Morrison's staff after spending last year with the Victoria Royals under former Ice head coach James Patrick. So should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. We've got some other topics which we'll get to right out of the gate. But just before we do that, I'll welcome Michael Remis in. A huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, including Garage Living Winnipeg. We presents CFL 110, new edition of CFL 110 tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk with myself and Jeff Hamilton, in addition to tomorrow's regular edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, the gang at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, Wallace & Wallace, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Little Brown Jug, F Apparel, the Beer Can, along with Next Door and Hoagie Boys, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, where we'll be at tonight, Assiniboia Downs. We've got some picks coming later on. Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, the latest in golf from our friends at Breezy Bend. And, of course, we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everyone on the pod. Welcome to everyone listening or joining us live on YouTube today. And welcome to Michael Remis. Remo, what's up? How are you?
Feeling good, just getting ready for tonight's Gold Eyes night, Huss. I got my Gold Eyes, I guess the 90s hat. I'm feeling good. You know, we're going to go out. The weather maybe not looking like the most baseball weather, but I got my long sleeve on. I'm ready to go, try out some of the concessions, check out this new patio, and getting a chance to meet a lot of our great listeners and viewers. So I'm pumped for tonight, Huss. I can't wait. This is exciting.
I like it. You got the OG Gold Eyes hat on right now.
Yes.
I'm wearing this of all the Gold Eyes unis that they've ever had. This one is my favorite. And this actually was a road jersey. But you can check that one out. I've got it on. I figured I'd wear it on the show today because I feel it's probably a hoodie day today. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have that on top or something like that. Just to remind everyone, there's an email that's already been sent out with all the information for tonight. But again, because we have the patio deck reserved, we didn't send out tickets like we normally do. We'll have a list. We'll have a table. Right when you get there, in front of the will call, there will be a table. We'll be there starting at 5:30. You can come and get your wristbands. You can walk in. Oh, and by the way, our beautiful new koozies, which we'll be giving everyone. Winnipeg Sports Talk. Shout out to our friends at Coolbet. So we've got those for everyone as well. You can go fill that koozie with a little brown jug when you get up there, and then maybe start a tour through some of the concession areas. But again, 5:30 to 6:30, we'll have the table out there. Pop by, pick up your wristbands, go upstairs, get settled, and then play ball at 6:30 tonight. If you, for whatever reason, are coming late, we're going to want to get up and hang out with everyone. If you are late and the table's not there anymore, just go to Will Call. Our pal Will Sutton, the brains of the operation there in the box office. We'll have the list. We'll take care of everyone. I think Mike's coming by. I know Brandon's coming. Ken Weeb coming as well. And listen, a whole whackload of WSTers. So it should be a lot of fun. And despite the fact that it's not a perfect baseball weather day, we were certainly going to make the best of it. And I'll tell you what, the team's playing great as of late. So hopefully they can keep it rolling, and we can keep it rolling with another really fun WST event with the whole crew.
Yes, 100%. So I'm looking forward to the event. So I'm reading chat. So send out the email that I used BCC to send to everyone. So you don't want, everyone's personal email, safe with us. And yeah, looking forward to.
Done.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have the sign there. Those koozies look great. Well done. So appreciate Coolbet for their, and yeah, there we go.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I mentioned this before, but I mean, a special thanks to Pat and Jake for their support. I mean, they've been with us from day one, but the ability to get to the draft and these Coolbet koozies. And again, if you're not at the game tonight, myself, Remis, Connor, when we go to Bomber games this summer, we're going to be bringing a few dozen of these each and every time. And it'll be first come, first serve, but we'll get these out at some Bomber games as well if you're not able to pop by and see us tonight. And if you are at the game, we've got a certain capacity in the patio party, but certainly pop by. We're right there by Craft Beer Corner along the first base line, the new patio deck. So we'll hopefully see you there tonight. Listen, we want to get into the football stories, the latest on the Bombers, the Cup Final tonight. But, Reem, I have to ask you, did you tune in to Teddy Bucket's IG Live last night? It's amazing what a big story this is. Like, I have had people from around Canada text me going, what the heck happened with Teddy Allen? I kind of said, well, it seemed like there was a bit of an implosion of the team from the inside. I think Teddy's got maybe some anger management issues at times. Certainly we saw that Niagara with the 2 texts. We saw that. I mean, everything coming out of the game from people. I wasn't at the game. I was locked into the U.S. Open. Usually make most of the games. We'll be there tomorrow. But talking to people that were at the games said that it was borderline ugly at times. I mean, guys yelling at each other. I mean, obviously the team in a really, really dark place. And it had to be. I mean, to cut a guy that just went for 39, that was the MVP of the league, you knew things were bad. But I was quite interested as to what happened the next time Teddy went live, because there's been some, I'll just call them weird, strange IG live appearances in the past for Teddy. And I knew the next time that he said anything, people would be interested.
Yeah, this was, it's the CEBL, but this was a top story for Winnipeg Sports. His poster is on the side of Canada Life Center. He was the MVP. If you knew a player on the Sea Bears, maybe you knew Chad Posthumous, but Teddy, his name's Teddy Buckets. So it just flies off the
Great
tongue.
nickname.
So he's been known to do some IG lives. I usually tune in, click it on, and then get out of there. But this one, it happened this morning. It was must watch. Here's the picture. He was in the middle of getting his hair done by his girlfriend. He said he didn't want an afro, and so that's how he gets the cornrows. So he just spoke to the camera, for it was a while. Man, look at this point of this snapshot. He had 160 people in there. There was a lot of people, and he's got over 10K followers on Instagram. But said that he loves Winnipeg. Has no ill will towards anyone, really. Love playing in front of the fans. No hard feelings. He said, don't worry about him. He'll be okay. He's in Orlando, Florida right now. And look, he's asked him about, about being cut. He said he's just trying his best. He's not perfect. And he said he was playing the system that was built for him, built around him by Coach Mike Taylor. Maybe some differing viewpoints between him and the team. Said his agent will get on to see what the next step is. And asked how the Sea Bears are going to do on Wednesday. He said the Sea Bears will be okay because they have Byron Mullins, and there was a heated argument between the two on Sunday's game. So I think maybe the sarcasm detector on for some of the comments he made about Byron Mullins. So we will see what the Sea Bears look like tomorrow. It is on national TV, so a big response game coming Wednesday. I'm curious, really a lot of intrigue now about the new era of the Sea Bears, as we're like halfway into year 2.
Yeah, it just sucked for the organization. I mean, listen, it sucks, period, to have to go down this route. I mean, I think everyone saw that roster that they'd put together, especially with the Justin Foreman coming on board, and thought, okay, I mean, this is a team that should be able to beat any team. I mean, they were playing no defense. They were giving up triple digits each and every game. But for it to sort of boil over the way that it did on Sunday at a sold-out game, matinee for Father's Day, really unfortunate for everyone at the Sea Bears that's been working so hard to make this happen, to make the season a success. And I mean, they've done such a great job at establishing this team in such a short time. You don't want things like that to kind of take over the conversation. Hard for it not to be the conversation in town for these few days, but nothing that a win won't cure. And moving forward tomorrow night down at the Canada Life Center, going to be very, very interesting to see how this team looks without Teddy Buckets, the guy that, as he mentioned, I mean, the entire system was built around. And empowering some of the other guys to step up and do what they were brought here to do. And we'll see whether a more cohesive unit without their MVP from last year can lead to some more wins. But no shortage of intrigue around the Sea Bears at this point in the season. One thing they got to start doing is winning some games, because after being at 3-1, they've lost 4 in a row. The defense has just evaporated, and the team was imploding from the inside.
Yeah, this is a team that had a lot of talent, brought in a number of players, and it just wasn't working together. And Joey Slattery was on yesterday, so check out that conversation at the end of the show. We called it rock bottom for the team that had such a successful first year. Still plenty of time to turn around. They were on this lengthy road trip before, but now they got a bit of a longer homestand, 4 games before heading out on the road on next road game, July 5th against Montreal Alliance. So Vancouver, Saskatchewan Rattlers, got Niagara, and the Stingers again on July 3rd. So 4 games, time to turn it around. More cohesive unit, improving team defense. I'm curious how it's going to go. And tomorrow, national TV, TSN. It's great.
Yeah, well, big, listen, lots of talking points going in. I see Patrolman Pete. This is a story. The local media needs to pay more attention to it. I'll tell you what, I was in the car yesterday listening to Christian O'Mell on the CJOB Sports Show. And, Christian does the play-by-play for the Seabears. So, and of course, CJOB's got a number of games broadcast. And he said, he went to the press conference, and this was way different than any other Seabears press conference. I mean, with the amount of cameras and the amount of local media there. So, it certainly has been talked about. There's just, we don't have that 24-hour station to bang it out all day. And, of course, we got to get to some other big topics because Game 5 tonight of the Cup goes. The Jets now have their assistant coaches. And we're going to talk about that coming up a little bit later on with we're going to talk about that coming up with Mike McIntyre. And, of course, we got some Bomber news to get to. Speaking of the assistants, though, Scott Arniel, and we're going to talk about it with Mike, but he sat down with Ken, who's going to join us tonight at the ball game later on, about hiring Dean Chynoweth and Payne as assistants. Arniel talked about Payne's power play work with Ottawa with Drake Batherson and Tim Stützle. Had a great relationship with Giroux. I saw some, and I apologize for not remembering who tweeted this out yesterday, but I did see some of those heat maps of the Ottawa power play. And the one spot that they did a lot of work and they got a ton of action was right in front of the net, which obviously is a good thing for power plays, but also highlights the potential of Gabriel Velarde there, who had been so devastating in that spot right now. So that'll be a big part of Payne's job going forward. And, of course, Chynoweth on the PK and defense, worked with PK in Toronto and Carolina, and has had a great relationship with players wherever he's been, a former our assistant. And what did he say, Remis? 17 interviews for 2 vacancies for the job with the Jets.
Yeah,
the 2 jobs with the Jets.
Yeah, Scott Arniel speaking with Scott Billick and Ken Reeb yesterday. That's a lot, man. 17 people, so it seemed like he was open to just about anything. I felt a connection to Davis Payne. We talked about this yesterday. They're both coaches around early 2010s. Getting the first opportunity. It was a short time. Arniel was with Columbus, Payne with the Blues, and they'd see each other on the road. And, said he had heard good things, heard they had good relationships with the players. And, Payne worked with, as you mentioned, Ottawa. He was in LA as well. Anze Kopitar, Justin Williams, when they won the Stanley Cup. And, with Toronto and Carolina, so a number of, great Carolina penalty kills as well. So special teams was a focus for them, looking to improve that as we head in towards the next season. And again, approaching free agency as well, the draft. So some anticipate some changes, or at least new additions for sure at the draft, even if they don't have a first round pick, new additions to the organization and players that we might even see in development camp, which is just around the corner as well.
Yeah, and listen, speaking of assistant coaches, Morgan Klimchuk is going to join us a little later on. I think you're going to really enjoy that conversation. One name, Remis, that I thought might potentially come up when it comes to the assistant coaching jobs, the longer they were open, is a guy that's now on the market and a guy we know very well. Pascal Vincent, fired yesterday by the Columbus Blue Jackets after 1 year. I'm not sure there's been anyone that has been dealt a worse hand for his first opportunity to coach in the NHL in recent history than Pascal Vincent. Coming in days before training camp after Mike Babcock got fired, before he had even started on the job officially with any sort of work with the team. And it went from bad to worse for Columbus. Patrick Laine lost for half the season in the NHLPA program. Major injuries. An organization that seemingly was in free fall. The GM gets fired. I hope that this isn't held against Pascal for a long time. Everyone that's worked with him knows what a talented communicator and coach that he is. He absolutely deserved a shot in the NHL. You can't pick and choose. There's only 32 jobs. You take one when you can get it. But holy smokes, did he get a raw deal in CBS.
Columbus bringing in the new management, Don Waddell as GM, rightfully I thought they made the right move making a change. I mean, just after everything that happened, hiring Mike Babcock and then him not even making it to not even making it to training camp, let alone the regular season. It's just what a disaster there. And it's been a rough go in Columbus for a long time. Haven't had a lot of success. So Don Waddell, coming off of Carolina, where they've done quite well, and announcing him as GM, and he wants to come in and bring in his own guy. So I think it's certainly Pascal Vincent put in a tough spot. Could it have been done a bit earlier? If they're going to make a change, giving him an opportunity to catch on with another team, maybe. But it is what it is. He was, did great work here as an assistant and as a head coach of the Moose. So wishing him all the best, but certainly put in a tough spot, and a tough result here announced was that just after the show yesterday.
Well, and listen, you laid it out. I mean, new management, they're going to move forward and get their guys. The one scenario that Pascal's situation reminds me of is when Patrick Waugh left the Avalanche shortly before the start of their season. And there was a whole bunch of inner turmoil there. And did he quit?
I believe he did, yes.
I think he did, now that I remember. And they turned it over to Jared Bednar. And the Avalanche were historically bad. They had a 48-point season in the 3-point era, the loser point era, which is among the worst seasons for an NHL team in, the last 15 years or so. They were horrible. And I remember watching that team here in Winnipeg thinking, I mean, they are just bottoming out. Now, listen, they got Nathan McKinnon, but I did not think that Jared Bednar would be able to last after a 48-point season. I mean, you just think that they're going to move in a different direction. To Colorado's credit, they believed in their guy. They stuck with him, and they now got a Stanley Cup ring to show for it. But there's no stability in that Columbus front office, and I think that's why Pascal met the fate that he did, as opposed to getting another opportunity to move forward like Bednar did with incredible results in Denver.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Don Waddell wants to come in and put his stamp on the organization. He wants a coach that he's familiar with. He has, that's his choice, because if you're going to be a GM, you want to put, your best foot forward as well. Nothing against Pascal, but he wasn't Don Waddell's guy, so they're moving on. There are some names, just being thrown around. Todd McClellan, Todd Woodcroft. They go with Gerard Gallant. I think was it Jeff Merrick or someone mentioned Bob Hartley, who Don Waddell hired as head coach of the Atlanta Thrashers. So that's another coaching vacancy, as the last one got closed up yesterday. The Sharks introducing Ryan Warsofsky as head coach, but now we got another vacancy, so we'll wait and see what happens with Columbus.
Yeah, and what weird timing, too. I mean, just, literally a week before everyone gets to Vegas. But I guess they realized they needed to make this decision, and, Waddell hadn't been there for that long. They're going to move forward, and who knows whether they'll have a coach in time for making their picks coming up in the draft. One other appointment, Eric Tulsky is the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, Eric Tulsky is not a hockey lifer. An incredibly interesting background, as opposed to the majority of guys that are in similar positions around the league. If you're not a hockey lifer, but you want to become an NHL GM, maybe you follow Eric Tulsky's path. Here's his background. The Philadelphia native holds a BA in chemistry and physics from Harvard University and a PhD in chemistry from the University of California, Berkeley. He also conducted a 2-year postdoctoral study at the Naval Research Laboratory in Washington, D.C. Tulsky previously worked in the high-tech industry for 12 years, managing teams of researchers focused on using nanotechnology to solve problems in DNA sequencing, solar energy, displays, and energy storage, and he currently holds 27 U.S. patents. When I read that, I don't necessarily think general manager in the National Hockey League, Remis, but he obviously has, been in some ways a bit of a trailblazer, I think, when it comes to much of the analytic work. Obviously is a very smart dude. And Carolina has often done things a little differently than a lot of other teams. It will be fascinating to see how he works as an NHL GM after being one of the brightest minds on the analytics side of things and the assistant behind Don Waddell for the last number of years down in Carolina.
Yeah, here's his, what is this, his LinkedIn page right now. Right now, Hassan, you mentioned not a hockey lifer, but it's not like he just stepped in the organization. He started in 2014 as a consultant, and before that, he was, a hockey blogger using analytics. So he, was a consultant, analyst, manager of hockey analytics for a year, VP of hockey management and strategy, assistant GM for almost 4 years, and then interim GM for 2 months, last 2 months, and now GM. So congratulations to him. Carolina Hurricanes, we'll see how they move it forward. There was talk they would look for a different GM, but the GM was right there the entire time. Very smart guy. He's managed teams. He's been involved with the organization for 10 years now. So looking forward to seeing what Carolina does, as they have some off-season decisions. They have to make another playoff disappointment for them. But, they're a really good team that seemingly right there.
Well, yeah, they didn't get swept in the conference finals because they didn't get there. But still a very, very good time. And maybe the most important off-season move was inking Rod the Bod to an extension. But, man, you look on Cap Friendly, soon to be RIP, and you pull up the Carolina Hurricanes. There's a lot of work for Eric Tulsky to do and some big-time decisions to be made. They've got 4 RFAs, including Winnipeg Seth Jarvis, Martin Nakash, who's apparently on the block, Jack Drury, and Maxime Comtois. UFAs, Jake Gensel, Jordan Martinuk, Stefan Nosen, and Tuvo Teravainen, all important players on the squad. And then on the blue line, Tony DeAngelo, not a big loss, not a huge part of their team, but Brett Pesce and Brady Shea, also UFAs. Going to be very interesting to see how that moves forward and, whether they operate any differently under Eric, who is, of course, on the staff under Don Waddell, who is now the boss in Columbus and just tied the can to our old pal Pascal Vincent. So a lot more hockey talk coming up with Mike, a little more on the Winnipeg Jets and the new assistants, as well as a look ahead to things that may be on the table for Kevin Cheveldayoff when we get to Vegas. But we are going to talk Bombers coming up and CFL with Paul LaPolice. But do a quick update from Bombers practice and some good news for the Bombers. I was particularly spooked yesterday when Dalton Schoen wasn't in practice, already down Kenny Lawler and Brady Oliveira. The good news, Remis, Dalton Schoen practicing today. Kyrie Wilson practicing today, although Wilson did not do team drills. Still concerning, though, the Bombers, at least right now, without Brady Oliveira and without Dietrich Nichols, will be massive, massive holes in the lineup if they are not able to play in this game against BC, where the Bombers look to win their first game of the season Friday night.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Are we in must-win territory in Game 3 of the season for the Bombers? I would say must. I don't know, throw a passing.
Not the CFL.
Yeah, I say must throw a passing touchdown, or no, because it's only game 3. But you'd like to see something from the offense. Maybe not as many turnovers as well. So when you heard Schoen not practicing, you're already out Oliveira and Lawler. It's tough. Wheatfall, he looked pretty good, Huss, in his first CFL action last game. We'll wait and see. The early week injury reports, I don't think you want to get too tied to them. It's more about, the day before, which I guess would be Thursday with the Friday game. So there's still some time for everyone to get ready. But good news seeing Dalton Schoen out there in uniform at practice. Shout out to DT, Derek Taylor, with those practice updates.
Yeah, beautiful. Let Bombing join us for a little bit of a recap of how practices looked so far this week before we get into CFL 110. Before we get to LaPolice, just a couple quick clips from Osh. Coach Michael O'Shea of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And, hey, the team's 0-2. Been a lot of time in the coach's room the last few days. Here's what O'Shea had to say on what he's seen from his team after reviewing the tape.
Yeah, we didn't play well enough. I mean, it's pretty easy. You make enough mistakes and don't execute to the level that you need to execute to win a game. So that's kind of how it happens.
Mike,
This is most classic O'Shea.
he's had some zingers so far this year. Short, sweet, and to the point, and telling no lies. Telling no lies. One more from O'Shea. Listen, they've had plenty of injuries in training camp and now early in the season, really dealing with some adversity. Here's O'Shea on dealing with the injuries that have piled up so far this season.
Yeah, I don't know that any of our guys would look at that. I think what they see is, in the Ottawa game, they see four guys slugging it out on the defensive line and not coming off and playing, like animals, still running to the ball late in the game, doing everything they can. I think that's what our guys see. I don't think they look at it from the other perspective. Also, the guys that are going to get their opportunity, they don't look at being out there as being classified as gutted. They look at it as a great opportunity for them, and the vets around them look at it as good opportunities for these young guys to get in and learn.
Great point from O'Shea on that D line. And if the team had been able to come back and execute the way they needed to inside the 10-yard line with a first down in the dying seconds of the football game, we'd be talking about a great comeback, but we'd also be talking about those four guys that didn't come out because of the other injuries on the defensive line. But another opportunity to make something happen and get in the win column on Friday night. Should be an awesome night at Princess Auto Stadium, and a heck of a game, one of the featured matchups in the Canadian Football League this week. We're going to talk CFL with Paul LaPolice coming up, and we're also going to be talking CFL tomorrow when we get together with Jeff Hamilton for another edition of CFL 110. Really looking forward to that. And we can't thank Pat Kanuga and the folks at Garage Living Winnipeg enough for jumping on board with us. Garage Living Winnipeg can help you with transforming your garage. Is it a mess? Do you have enough time opening your car door because of all the clutter? Maybe you can't even park in your garage because of all that stuff in there. Well, Garage Living Winnipeg can help. In just a few days, you can have a beautiful, clean, functional garage that looks amazing and adds value to your home. They specialize in stunning polyaspartic floor coatings, high-end, made-in-Canada metal cabinets, slat wall, and overhead storage solutions. Our buddy Pat, who you know from a long time, doing that morning show on CBC, you should give him a call for a free in-garage consultation. 204-999-1234. Pat's been a vintage car guy for decades. He knows garages, and whether it's a 10-car garage mahal or a single-car garage in the back lane, Pat can come up with a design to meet your needs. Again, reach Pat, 204-999-1234, garageliving.com. Garage Living Winnipeg, garages made for living. If you are moving this summer, the fellows at Rolly's Transfer are ready to help you. Rolly's family owned and operated for over 60 years in Winnipeg, continuing to grow, and really the most trusted name in moving in Winnipeg and South Manitoba. Their extensive logistics business takes them not just throughout the city, but throughout Southern Manitoba on a daily basis, which means flexible routes, flexible timing, and great prices for any moves outside of this city or in. Head on over to Rollies.com. Beautiful brand new relaunched website. Top right corner, you'll see the request a quote feature. Click on that. Let them know where you're moving, what you're moving, when you want it moved. And the friendly folks at Rollies will turn it around real quick with a very competitive quote for you and get you moving on to your next destination. For your next move, trust Rollies, the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba for over 60 years. Find out more and request your quote today at rollies.com. Got to shout out my friends at Consolidated Supply, great supporters of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Buck, Spicy, and the gang down there. They're ready to help you with some of those big projects you've got that need to get done in the summer. Irrigation systems, artificial turf on the property, and hey, maybe you need a golf cart to whip around from lot to lot or from course to course this summer as well. They're the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. Have some incredible both new and used golf carts and some great accessories to trick yours out as well. They've got other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. And of course, they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. And they do have the full line of Crest power tools now, including that satellite-guided robot RTK mower. Stop by and see them at the Consolidated Supply showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And hey, listen, for all those tools and all those toys this summer, you got to have batteries. And when it comes to batteries in Winnipeg, it's Manitoba Battery, allowing you to shop local, get the best prices in town, saving a lot as opposed to, we'll beat the pants off the big box stores, to be perfectly honest with you, with pricing. They've got a big Power Sport battery sale on right now until the 30th of June. So make sure to check that out if you're in the market for Power Sport batteries. But any battery, you're going to get the best price, and they'll deliver it to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. You can pop by and see Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, original location, 1026 Logan Avenue, new location on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. Pick up the phone or go online and order today at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's catch up with Coach Lapo, who you know is doing a great job on TSN and has now joined us as YouTubers. Let's bring in the coach.
Lapo, what's going on? It's great to have you back in the peg on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, I'm fired up. Great to be on, man. It's good to see you guys.
Hey, it's been great to see you so far. You're kind of getting in everywhere. You're doing the panel. You're doing some color. And I saw you with the stick on the sideline. How's the start of the season been for you? Little jack of all trades.
Hey, the more you can do, buddy. You gotta stick around. You gotta do a bunch of things. Now, yeah, the sideline thing came for years ago. I used to do coaches' playbooks from the sideline. So when they used to be sponsored by GMC. So with Matthew Chianetti on the road, they'd say, hey, put you on there. And again, you get a coach on the sideline so you can see some things. So you might be able to, hey, turn the mic on, bring something from the game that you've seen as a coach. So that's what's been good. I'm doing it again this weekend. So on Sunday, I have the Argos. The Argos play the Elks, I believe, and I am the sideline reporter for that one also, as well as in the studio 2 days. Yeah, it's the more you can do, buddy. I enjoy it.
Well, listen, you're also doing some really cool stuff on YouTube, and folks can check out that channel and make sure to sub at Coach Lapo. We'll put a link in the description. We'll fill you in more on what's on that channel in a minute. But Paul, I just right off the bat, the Bombers are 0-2. I've spent a good portion of the last week and a half talking Bomber fans off the ledge. Kind of funny. You've been a little spoiled the last few years with how good this football team has been. I mean, you watched the game from a coach's standpoint. Where are you at on the Bombers right now? I mean, how concerned should people be, albeit just 2 games into an 18-game regular season?
Yeah, I said this 2 weeks ago, and even though they lost to Ottawa, I'm not changing this thing. You got a coach that is very well respected, does a very good job, been very successful on Coach of the Year. You got a coaching staff that's a ton of veterans. I know Jordan Younger's moved to a new spot, but Richie Hall's still in the building. You've got, Buck Pierce, Marty Costello, Kevin Burgoyne. Like, I know that coaching staff, and I know they're very good coaches. They have been for the past few years. Right? You have talented players. I know there's some injuries right now, but there's a talented football team, and you have the most valuable player at quarterback a couple of seasons. Has he had a couple of? Yeah, he's had some turnovers the last couple of weeks, but you have a talented football team. And the thing I tried to say is sometimes it was difficult to go to a Bomber stadium and expect to be right in the game. You're hoping that hopefully we have a good game and we're close or we're in it. We do everything right. We win the game. where now the expectation is you're going to blow everybody out. And you just got to be thankful you can go to a Winnipeg Blue Bomber game and go, hey, you know what? I'm in it for a really good game, and I get a chance to win every week. That's it. I think people got to calm down a little bit. Why have they struggled? They've lost the turnover margin 2 games in a row, and I don't care who you are and how talented you are, you're going to lose football games. That was a close game versus Ottawa, but they had two turnovers, and they still had a chance to win at the end of the game. So, calm down. I think everybody needs to calm down a little bit, let some of these players get healthy.
One of the things that I think coaches in particular do a great job is breaking down where things maybe aren't going as well as they should be or need to be. I think back to when Kyle Walters took over this football team, and they prioritized Canadian talent, but they also prioritized the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And the Bomber offensive line had been among, if not the best, for the last number of years. And they really dominated for the most part on the defensive line too, with Willie and Jackson Jeffcoat. What have you seen at the line of scrimmage for the Bombers so far through two games? Yeah,
it's really hard to judge the Ottawa game because of the injuries to Haba. So they had some injuries there. Here's what I would say. I think sometimes when people say we've got to make sure, you just got to work through some things. Liam Dobson's really hasn't played a lot of football. They used to have Jeff Gray in that spot. Now you've got a new player there. Everybody week 1 was like, oh my God, what's wrong, with the offensive line? Well, they played the Montreal Alouettes. Before we got on this call, I was watching the Edmonton Elks play the Montreal Alouettes, and the Montreal Alouettes defensive line is throwing the Elks guys backwards. So sometimes it's who you face. So Lofton, this is a conversation people talk about. We lost your Marcus and we signed Lofton. There's a drop-off. What people have to have an understanding is, okay, well, everyone was excited to get Brady Oliveira. And when we got Dalton Schoen, or when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers got Dalton Schoen, you were like, oh my God, how did they do that? How did they figure that out? Plus Kenny Lawler's still in the building. Plus Zach Collaros. Plus Stanley Bryant. So sooner or later, you have to get younger, or you have to get more affordable at a spot. And that's just going to happen. You can't blame, why did they get rid of this guy? They had to keep the players that all the fans want anyways. So there just has to be a little patience there. The big thing in the Ottawa game, Nichols goes out and gets injured, Dietrich Nichols, the boundary halfback, and then they're playing Bonds, a young player. Well, between him and Bridges, I broke down one of the plays that happened. They just made a miscommunication of man coverage. And as soon as you make that miscommunication, one guy catches ball, he's up the sideline, 30-yard gain. And it's just, they got to work through some of those things. I think it's a good football team. They just got to work through some stuff.
All things considered, from a defensive side of things, I think they've actually been pretty good. I mean, I'm sure Zach would be the first one to tell you that, with a little bit more efficiency for the offense through 2 games, you take a little bit of a load off of that defense that, overall, with so many different, first of all, players out, we'd be missing Adam Bighill in the first game.
Yeah.
And some new players in. I mean, overall, I think there was some real concerns about the defense, but it's actually hung in there quite a bit. You're just looking for that efficiency on offense that, frankly, you expect from a Zach Collaros-led unit.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I felt like myself as the Ottawa Redblacks head coach a couple of years ago. My second year, we got Jeremiah Masoli. Who do we open with? Back-to-back Winnipeg Blue Bombers. What the? Who scheduled that? And you faced a really good defense in Montreal week 1. And again, Ottawa did a really good job stopping the run last year too. They were the second in the CFL in stopping the run. So, they hit their shots downfield. But I think in the first half, there had to be 3 or 4 drops for Winnipeg's offense. So the execution's got to be better, and then they'll be where they need to be.
Paul LaPolice with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. As I mentioned, Paul now has a YouTube channel. We're going to put a link in the description for everyone with us on YouTube. I want you to click that. We tell you about Winnipeg Sports Talk. Click the sub, get on over and give Lapo a sub. We want to see a big bump in subscribers for Lapo after visiting us today. So he'll come back and hang out with us more on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Lapo, tell us a little bit about the channel. And people can go and see it. There's a couple of real interesting video bits involving the Bombers, the Montreal defense in week 1, as well as Drew Brown's throws in week 2. But, big picture for football fans and people in our audience, what'll they see when they come and hang out with you over in your YouTube channel?
Yeah, this started last year. We didn't have it as much an opportunity with less pregame shows to do what I used to call Coach's Playbook, Paul LaPolice. So you like to just teach. As a coach or a teacher now, I'm on television. It's no different. I'm just teaching. I just have less time. You have 2 minutes to teach. So I just started posting some things last year, and I probably did it for a week. I think I did from week 15 through the Grey Cup. And, this offseason, I kind of watched some people who do it really well in the business and had some bigger YouTube channels. And I spoke to a couple of guys and just got education. So what I do, I got better lighting, got better audio, fixed my office better. And now I'm trying to make sure I just post stuff and stuff behind the scenes. So I did something about what cut down looks like the week of cut down. I did what the opening of training camp looks like. So I'm just trying to do as many things that is kind of the inside the game stuff that people really like. And I make sure if I'm in a hotel over the weekend for TSN that I got my laptop and I'm going to break some game film down. That's what I do with Drew Brown. And then I can go, hey, here's what I liked last week. Here's what he did well. And so I'll try to post something at least 3 or 4 times a week just to there's not a lot of CFL behind the scenes content. So hopefully I can bring that to the fans and, continue to do that.
Well, it's a great opportunity for people to sort of watch coaching film and watch and get that insight from a coach. Let me ask you this, and I think this might be another good idea just for one of the segments on the show, but for average fans, I think average fans probably watch the game a little differently than coaches do. Let me just ask you very simply, when you're watching a play, where does it start for you? Are you watching on the line of scrimmage? What sort of things are you identifying or like right off the bat that maybe fans can pay attention to a little bit more to really understand what's going on down in and down out?
I'm trying to watch it somewhat like a quarterback. So before the ball is snapped, I'm watching the contour of the coverage. So I can kind of get a bit like I should be able to know if it's watching, whether it be on television or whatever. If I can see more of the defensive backs, I can know whether it's man or zone coverage. So, but then after that, as soon as we're finished, I'm going right to the line of scrimmage, because the line of scrimmage will tell you run, pass. They'll tell you what they're trying to execute. And then you try that. But once you know what the play is from the O-line, then you go wide again. So it starts out wide, trying to figure out coverage. Then it goes real narrow to the O-line, D-line. And then if it's a run, you stay narrow at that space. If it's a pass, then you got to expand back again. And, when I first started out in the business 100 years ago, there was a lot to see, but it slows down, just like a quarterback. It'll slow down with time.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about the channel, breaking down the coach's film, being able to identify particular things. And I think fans will really enjoy it because, you can pick up a lot of things that I think can help you when you're watching games at Princess Auto Stadium or just on television about what is actually happening in the game. And, I'll bring you to, the first video that you've done that Bomber fans are going to want to check out on the Montreal defense. Maybe tosses a few things that stood out about the defense, but also, I guess at the same time, I'm going to ask you about the Bomber offensive line and the challenges that they've had over the last couple of days, particularly the interior, to give Zach the time he needs to operate comfortably.
Well, yeah, you've got, Dobson and Lofton are new to the system. Dobson's been there a couple of years, hasn't started a lot. And Lofton is new to the system, so that's going to take some time. I haven't watched their game versus Ottawa yet, but Mustafa Johnson might be the best defensive tackle in the league. So, if he gets a couple of big plays and forces the quarterback, that shows up. And I think the hard thing is if a team struggles to get first downs, then it doesn't really matter. Then you just look at the 2 times on 2nd and 10 when the quarterback's throwing and there's a pressure on the quarterback. You're like, oh my God, it must be the O-line. Well, it's always the receivers might be in the wrong spot and you don't stay on the field. So it just gets magnified. They've got a good, they've got a line that is, you can win football games with, and they, just trust that they'll be there to do those things. And the cool thing I think about doing the breakdowns is that I've learned, and you, Andrew, you've been in multiple environments and radio. You don't have a lot of time. So that's what I like about YouTube. If I want to break down a game, here's an 18-minute breakdown where I would never have that. I have less than 30 seconds when I'm on the panel to talk. And then if I have a segment with TSN, it's maybe 2 minutes. So I like the long form of being able to break down, Montreal's defense and talk about 10 plays, and that turns into about 18 minutes.
Well, the other long breakdown that Bomber fans are going to take a look at is, of course, former Blue Bomber Drew Brown. He broke down all of his throws. I mean, hey, he got the win, and to your point, did not turn the football over, which had to be at the top of the list of the do's and don'ts for the game, Lapo. But what was your takeaways from Drew's first start in Ottawa?
Yeah, as somebody who was part of the Ottawa organization for 2 years, and the biggest thing since Trevor Harris left is the Ottawa Redblacks have been worst in the Canadian Football League, 3 out of 4 years in offensive giveaways. So they turned the ball over too many times offensively and put the team in a position where you can't win football games. So I was hoping to see from Drew Brown. Can we get consistency at that position for Ottawa, and can he protect the football? So he threw the ball. He had 200 yards passing. It was a very Matt Nichols-like performance. 230 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. What did he do? He stayed on the field, but he saw the softness of the zones. He threw it to the receivers who were open and got first downs. I don't think he had a huge explosive play. He didn't have a downfield bomb, but he kept on the field and he protected the ball. Zach threw for 290, I think, more yards than him. I believe he had 2 interceptions, right? You just can't turn the ball over. So it was a good start for Drew Brown. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Paul, and again, folks, go to Coach Lapo on YouTube or click the link in the description in the chat in the bottom. Make sure to give Paul a sub and check out the content that he's cranking out there on a weekly basis over at YouTube. Going into the year, I think everyone thought there was the potential that the Bombers would still be good, but maybe not quite as much the team to beat throughout the regular season. We know they got beat in the Grey Cup by the Montreal Alouettes, but that some of the teams that had been struggling had done some catching up, and that this league is wide open through a couple weeks. Are you kind of feeling that everyone feels like they've got a shot to be a playoff team and do something special this season in the CFL?
Yeah, well, Saskatchewan's got a healthy quarterback, and you saw that 2 nights ago, and he had what I call a drive to win, took him right down the field, scored a touchdown, and they've been protecting the football and taking the football away. So Saskatchewan, that's why they're 2-0. I think the Elks have much better quarterback play, right? Trey Ford is a young player, but watching Cloud Bethel Thompson, he sees pictures and he throws the football. So I think the West has all the veteran quarterbacks, and that's difficult. You got to be on top of your game. But let me say this about the Bombs. Okay, if Zach, there's that throw to Dalton Schoen in the end zone in the first game against Montreal, it's almost a touchdown. There's a miss on a difficult throw to Kenny Lowe. If 2 of those plays are made, against the best team, the team that's been the most successful through last year and on, Montreal, they could possibly be right there to win that football game. And again, they had 1st and goal from the 7 at the end of the game versus Ottawa. And again, hats off to Ottawa. Ottawa didn't held them out of there, and so they lose the game. But if they make those plays, they're where they need to be. So just relax a little bit in Bomberland, let this team get under their foot.
From a coaching perspective, though, when you have a team that has been very successful for a number of years, and you start off the way that they have, you got a very good BC Lions team coming in here on Friday night to kick off summer. Take us into that coaching room over the course of the week. There's obviously some particular things you'd like to do better, individually, but what's the message to the team that is it a real kick in the ass, like you wake up guys, or is it reinforcing the success and the standard that you've put up for a number of years that most of the players in the locker room has been a part of? And just letting them know this is where we have to get to and we can do it.
There's really 2 things I would have thought about, and I think it'd be similar to Michael O'Shea. I haven't worked with him for a couple of years. Is they're going to evaluate after each game. Here are the mistakes we made that helped put us in a position to lose a football game. We need to correct those. We need to be better at this, these 4 or 5 things. And then once you put that game to bed, you go back to playing, like you said, at your standard. the standard of, how physical we're going to be, make good decisions with the football, all the things that work to your standard to win football games. So then, I think you got to throw in a little bit of positive reinforcement or consistency, I should say. You should be consistent whether you win or lose a game each week, because nobody's going to be consistent. That's something I always said. The fans won't be consistent with you. Other people won't be consistent. TV won't be. If you start losing games, even though they're close games, people are just going to get on you. So you got to be as consistent as you can as a coach. Here's what we got to do better. Let's work to get better. And then consistency breeds execution. Execution will breed success.
Hey, you mentioned Montreal. I've got to quickly ask you, it's funny. I mean, it was a year ago, 20 games ago, regular season, that we went into last year. There was a lot of turmoil around the Montreal organization, and the Alouettes were, in fact, the longest shot on the board to win the Grey Cup. They are now Grey Cup champions. They are 2-0 right now. I mean, from someone that's been, involved in trying to rebuild teams, Lapo, how impressive is the job that Jason Moss has done? And what have the keys been to this incredible turnaround in Montreal from the bottom of the league to the top in just over 1 year?
Yeah, I think Jason Moss, Dana Machocha have done a really nice job. Here's a couple of things. The addition of Noel Thorpe has brought a really good defensive structure. They have some talented players, young players on defense over there. And again, last year, they were not very good offensively. They were very average, and Cody was very average out of all the starters. But that defense kept them in games. So they were able to take the ball away. They were able to win games on defense. And then when they got to the Grey Cup, when Cody had to make the throws, he made the explosive throws in the Grey Cup. So, but this year, after 2 games, they look a lot better offensively. So I think they've had time to gel offensively. And that's what's kind of putting them in a position where, hey, we're going to be really tough to beat. I think 2 years ago, you would have said, well, if you don't turn the ball over, you're going to beat Montreal. Where I think that's going to change the more and more we see this. Because I thought Cody's thrown the ball really well. Philpott's having a good season. They're still getting the ball. They've had some injury receivers, but I think they do a good job offensively to counter that defense. Is going to be really hard because they're good defensively.
Coach Lapo himself, Paul LaPolice, with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can find the YouTube channel if you're listening on the podcast. Just search Paul LaPolice. It'll pop up. Give a sub. But fill people in on what you've got cooking this week and in the weeks to come over at the YouTube channel, in addition to all your work at TSN, Paul.
What do we have this week? I just posted Drew Brown's passes last night. I have coverage. So I think the fans kind of enjoy coverage information. So I've been kind of breaking down coverages. So there's a bunch of coverages on there. Tomorrow we're going to put what cover 0 is, what blitz coverage is. So I explain it, draw it up, and put some video. And I'm going to post the 5 clips of the week, the best clips of the week that happened in the CFL. And then I'm on the panel Friday, Saturday night, and then in the sideline on Sunday.
Hey, speaking of that, just Friday night, Bombers BC. I mean, what are you expecting to see? I mean, a heavyweight tilt. Remember, the BC really handed it to Winnipeg early on in the season last year. The Bombers ended up getting that little revenge and obviously making it to the Grey Cup. And I mean, we maybe didn't expect the records to be what they are right now, Paul, but this is still very much a heavyweight tilt in the West on Friday night.
Yeah, two talented football teams, and again, it starts with the 2 top-rated players in the Canadian football. Vernon Adams is one of the top-rated players in the top 50, and so is Zach Claris was the number 1. So you got really talented quarterbacks, so I expect to see good things there. The receiving core of the BC Lions has been a lot of fun to watch this year. Vernon's throwing the ball really well to those guys. So I'm excited to see them. And I'm just excited to see a response by the Bombers. There's been multiple times last year on, the Bombers are old, and they just came, the BC Lions last year, right? They said, they did beat them that first game of the season. Second time and the third time, the Bombers kind of took it to them when they had their opportunities. So I'm looking forward to see. This should be a great Friday night game.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great night to be at Princess Auto Stadium. It's looking like the weather's going to be nice, longest day of the year, kick off this summer, and a huge game for Winnipeg just in the third week of the season. Lapo, great to have you back on the program. Let's do this again soon, and continued success with the YouTube channel. Hopefully many of our WSTers have already jumped over, given you a sub, and And I honestly, I particularly appreciate this sort of content because I think it makes, fans smarter and get more out of the game when they're watching the broadcast. So please keep it up.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Andrew. Have me on.
New techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug, and we'll be able to cheers each other tonight at the ball game with some generics and 1919s at the ballpark. By the way, Lapo, awesome guest on the program. We'll look forward to doing that again. And nice to see we've given him a nice little bump with the subs on his YouTube page. There is a link at the top of the chat right now. If you're coming here later on, there's a link in the description. Let's get Lapo over 400 today. That will be a great turnout from WSTers supporting Lapo's channel. Again, it's completely free. Just hit that sub button. And I think that'll mean more Lapo on Winnipeg Sports Talk if we can sort of help him out do that. Mike McIntyre's coming up in just a second. Tonight, we're at the ballpark. Friday night, you know where everyone's going to be. Princess Auto Stadium, Bombers and Lions. And if you're heading down to the game on Friday, make sure to get there early for the Princess Auto tailgate party just outside the stadium. Inflatables for the kids, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, $5 beers, entertainment. It is the place to be before every Blue Bomber game. And the place to be on Canada Day is going to be Princess Auto Stadium as well, because Princess Auto and the Bombers welcome everyone for a massive Canada Day extravaganza that is 100% free. You know what Winnipeggers love? They love free. And they love good times. Doc Walker and Sam Roberts Band headlining the main stage. Activities for the whole family all day long. Fireworks at dusk. And again, it's free. So Monday, July 1st, make a plan to get your gang and head on down to Princess Auto Stadium to celebrate Canada. And of course, for the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around, Princess Auto's there for you. Founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg. Visit them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Tell you what, on that Friday and certainly on Canada Day, I know many of us will be sipping on Canada's #1, oldest, most famous, and best Canadian rye, Canadian Club. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and it's available throughout Canada, throughout Princess Auto Stadium. And in addition to the great taste of Canadian Club and all the Beam Suntory products, CC and Ginger also available. Very popular drink, pre-mixed cocktail in cans. Very popular at the game and popular anywhere in the summer. You can pick that up at your local beer vendor on your next stop in. And in the meantime, get that and all the Canadian Club family of products on your next stop at your local Manitoba liquor marts. I know it's a lot more fun to be spending your time in the yard, chilling, enjoying a CC or a Little Brown Jug, but there is lots of work to do. But if you've got fencing needs, take the load off and let the experts at Wallace & Wallace take care of the fence for you. They are the experts in fencing. Since 1946. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. Listen, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, Wallace & Wallace can help. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And don't forget, if you need a new garage door, they also have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also find out more and visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. And just before we bring in Mike, shout out to the fellas at F Apparel who are busy right now taking care of men up in their menswear game. If you look into the closet and realize it's time to upgrade, get on down to F Apparel. They've got custom suits starting at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories around. 15% discount for wedding parties when you get your suit. So if you are having a wedding or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F Apparel about that discount. Pop by and see him in person at 190 Smith Street. Find out more information online or make an appointment at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's bring in Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press to join us. Mike, it's great to have you on the program. We're looking forward to getting the gang together at the ballpark. How was your experience Friday night, getting on the bump for the first pitch?
Yeah, I won't be on the bump tonight, Huss, but I'm happy to report that I did not make a complete fool out of myself. A lot of people ask me after the fact, tell the truth, how many warm-up pitches did you have? The answer is 0. I had not thrown a single warm-up pitch. I went out there, as you can see in the video here for those. Dan Chase told me to stop in front of the mound. I was going to head right to the rubber. I wasn't technically on the bump. Landon Barrasso, Goldie's tremendous starting pitcher, gave me a nice target, and I nailed it. I pretty much threw it right down the middle. When Landon Barrasso, he comes over to me, and I said jokingly, I'm like, so what was that, 85, 90? He says, 92, easy. And Dan Chase, who works for the Winnipeg Goldeyes, he's standing beside us. He kind of mutters under his breath, more like 9.2. So well done, Dan Chase. Now, that night, the Goldeyes got hit early and often, and they fell into a big hole. They ended up rallying for quite the victory. But Sam Cates, Goldeyes owner, who was not at the game, he's down in the U.S. right now. But anyways, he texted me during the game when the Goldeyes were trailing after a rough night for the starting pitcher that night, and he said, "We could have used you on the mound tonight." I let him know that I am available should they ever find themselves short an arm in relief. Not exactly bringing the heat, but I think the accuracy was there. Now, my brother, bless his teasing heart, when he saw the video, he wasn't at the game, but he said he would have taken me easily to Waterfront Drive. Was his he's actually a pretty good hitter in kind of playing beer league and whatnot, and he probably would have actually taken me to Waterfront Drive, but I'd like to think I would have kept the ball in play, but who knows. It was a lot of fun. Great night at the ballpark, actually. Like I said, comeback victory, the fireworks. Folks, if you've never been to a Goldeyes game when they have fireworks, it is an incredible 10-minute production. They go all out with their fireworks, and I had a lot of family and friends there on Friday. They loved everything about it. Perfect night weather-wise, just all around.
What did you eat at the game?
I had a noodle box from, what's the
Bodego's.
Bodega. Oh my God. Oh, they just incredible. The spicy noodles. My mouth was on fire at the end, but it was a good burn, a good pain. I enjoyed it a lot. It was great.
That's the most difficult decision when you go to the ballpark is what the heck you're going to eat. There's so many options, and we'll look forward to trying as many as possible tonight. Looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the gang this evening down at the ballpark. And just quickly on the Fish, just before we move on to the Jets. Yeah. I mean, they had that tough start, losing the first 4 in Cleburne before getting off the mat. Then they go and play the number 1 team in the league, Kansas City, on the way back. And they started 3-7. It was like, okay, they weren't very good last year, where things are at. Logan Watkins has some ball players on this team right now, and they're really turning it around. Joey Matalovich, I can't remember a pitcher in the American Association consistently putting up numbers like he is. And he's got some help too with Barassa. But I mean, this is a really fun, exciting young team, Mike, and far cry from the team that struggled and never really got it going at all last year under Greg Taggart.
And they've added they've added some hometown flavor, Huss. And actually on Friday night, that was part of the fun as well. I got to see the debut of Ben Onishko. What a cool story he is. So it's funny how things work. Just last week, earlier in the week, I had written kind of in passing about Ben Onishko because I did a story on Tristan Peters. I interviewed Tristan Peters. For those who don't know who Tristan is, he's from Winkler, and he was drafted by, I believe it was San Francisco, but he's now part of the Tampa Bay, or it might have been Milwaukee, whatever the case. He's now part of the Tampa Bay Rays organization, and he is playing AAA right now and playing really well. This is his first season at AAA. He is, without a doubt, the top Manitoban in organized baseball right now. And as I wrote in my piece at the beginning of last week, the only other Manitoban that was in affiliated ball was Ben Onishko, who was playing AA with the Seattle Mariners, who drafted him a few years ago. Well, Ben Onishko is no longer with the Seattle Mariners. They released him last week, and the Winnipeg Goldeyes, very wisely, as they often do with players that get released from affiliated ball, they grabbed him. And Huss, he made his debut on Friday night, 2 innings. He's a lefty side armor, and he went 6 up, 6 down. The batters that he faced, they had absolutely they had no answer for him. So he was a lot of fun to watch, and they got a couple other Canadians like Barrasso, as you say, on the team. But it's nice to have a Winnipegger on the mound in Ben Onishko, and he certainly made a great debut, and he helps the bullpen in a big way as well.
Hey, just while we're talking on the local scene, before we get to the Jets, and I promise we will, great article on Elias Salmonson in the paper, the new assistant coaches. Mike, I mean, you're a Winnipeg guy. You've been covering sports for a long time. I love talking to you because you really, even though you're on one beat, we can talk like we would at the bar about pretty much everything. How about this business with Teddy Allen getting cut yesterday and the everything going on with the Seabears? It's amazing. We knew how popular the team was last year, but it was more people coming out checking it out.
Right.
This has been the story. I mean, the amount of people that have contacted me about this from outside of the market has blown me away.
Well, what's the old saying? There's no I in team. Teddy Buckets, based on everything we heard. Now, granted, we haven't heard his side of the story yet. But again, you look at what the team just did. They did not cut their MVP lightly. I mean, this was obviously a painstaking decision. And as we kind of heard yesterday with the outline, there was a lot behind this, right? This had been going on behind the scenes for quite some time. And it just shows once again, when you're talking sports and team sports, that no one player is ever above the team. And it's pretty clear, Huss, despite continuing to put up great numbers, including Sunday, it was not resulting in team success. Like, he was having success, the team was not. And it became pretty obvious that player and team were not at all on the same page. And this had become a major distraction to the point that it was harming the team. So, yeah, what a bombshell. And you wonder, like, how long would a team put up with this sort of thing? I guess if they were winning, you'd hold your nose at it. But the fact is, they've struggled despite having a really good player in him on the team. So yeah, it was that was just dropped out of the sky. And for us in the sports writing / commentating business, that is what we would call a talker. A great story for sure. It'll be interesting to see now, Huss, like who swoops in to potentially sign him. Is there another team out there? I got to think there would be that's thinking, okay, well, we can work with this guy, or we can fix
guaranteed.
This. Yeah. And he probably now might have a massive chip on his shoulder, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it goes back to the whole, like, there are some sports, golf for one, You can be an individual and selfish, and it's all about me, me, me. That doesn't work in a team environment. And as I say, sometimes I guess talent will trump other issues. In this case, it obviously became just too much.
Yeah, interested to see what happens tomorrow at Canada Life Center when the team is back on home court in the post Teddy Buckets Sea Bears era. Mike, let's get to the Jets. You got a piece on Elias Salmonson coming. We'll touch on that in a minute. But what have you learned, and what do you think about the additions to Scott Arniel's coaching staff and Dean Chynoweth and Davis Payne?
Yeah, I was impressed at just how thorough, and maybe we should have had a sense of this, Haas, the fact that this dragged on as long as it did, right? Like multiple weeks now after Scott Arniel was named, and he kind of spoke of an urgency to get the assistants in place, and then we just all waited and waited and waited. But to hear him, Ken Wiebe talked to Scott Arniel yesterday, and Scott told Ken that he interviewed 17 candidates. That's a very thorough assistant coach search. And 2 spots were available. I think we all thought that there was maybe going to be a mix of experience and maybe youth. And instead it was experience and experience. Now, different experiences for sure. But most recently, both guys coming out of Canadian NHL markets in Toronto and Ottawa. I guess what isn't a surprise at all, Haas, is that there was one hire that was clearly focused on the blue line and the penalty kill, and one hire that was clearly focused on the forwards and the power play. And I think if you look at the overall track record of both these assistant coaches, there's more good than bad when it comes to what they've been able to do with their respective teams. It's always difficult to just say, okay, they had a good penalty kill in Carolina or Toronto or wherever, Ottawa, power play, therefore it's going to work here. I mean, obviously very different personnel. The Jets themselves will run different systems. But the fact that these coaches have had some success on these specialty teams, which were very key areas for the Winnipeg Jets to be focusing on, I think is why they probably elevated themselves as good candidates, and a big part of why Scott Arniel ultimately brought these 2 on board. So the hope will obviously be that they can bring some fresh ideas, some tweaks. We'll see what the personnel looks like. That's not their job. That's more Kevin Cheveldayoff's job. And I do suspect as we enter free agency, Haas, I'd be shocked if the Jets aren't looking to upgrade in free agency. When we're talking maybe a depth forward here or there, somebody with, some real penalty kill acumen would be a key to focus on. But obviously to have these guys in place now, the coaching staff can get down to business. And, 17 candidates tells you that this was not just a guy who called up 2 buddies or something and offered them the job. This was an extremely thorough search, and we'll see if it bears fruit.
Yeah, I'm with you. When we had talked about how this coaching staff might look, and kind of thinking they might have a, like a Davis Payne type that's got some head coaching experience, right, and has been an assistant for a long time, and maybe someone that was a little younger. And I kind of thought that as we related it to the analytics discussion coming out of Scott Arniel's press conference when he was introduced. Now with these hires, and listen, I shouldn't speak to it. I mean, one of these guys may be really, really into it. You just find that generally younger coaches have maybe been more exposed to that, maybe are a little bit more open to that. I would imagine that this is going to be driven by the head coach, as well as what becomes of that department within the club. That's kind of the one area we don't really get much information about. And I think a lot of people don't have a good grasp as to what exactly the team is doing and how they operate in comparison to maybe some of their other contemporaries in the league.
For sure. And that's where another assistant that we don't talk about, because he was retained. I've had a lot of people ask me, what does Marty Johnson do? I think, Huss, and I'm not saying this because I got it directly from him. I'm just guessing here, but I believe Marty may be involved a little more on the analytics side there. Marty Johnson is, I'm just looking, he's 43, I believe, right now. So they do have a younger assistant coach, a more modern thinker, if you will. And for those who aren't aware of what Marty Johnson did before he became an assistant coach, he joined the Manitoba Moose, was with the Moose for a number of years. Then he joined the Jets 2 summers ago. He was the head coach of the Carleton University Ravens men's hockey team for 7 years. He played for Dalhousie University. He played in the Q. He played in the ECHL, played overseas. So, it'll be interesting as we go into the summer and maybe hear a little bit more about the analytics side of things. I wouldn't be shocked if Marty Johnson is not a big part of that.
Matt Prefontaine too.
For sure. Matty is I think he's the video coach, of course, but I think he would be very involved in that as well. So it may be that in a way they had some youth and, some of that modern thinking already on staff. One thing we knew, Huss, is the Jets lost a lot of experience, like with Rick Bowness leaving, just in terms of the coach's room as a whole. Like that is Rick Bowness has probably forgotten more about hockey than most coaches will ever learn. And I think that experience can be very valuable, especially as you navigate the marathon that is a season, the ups and downs. You can't replace Rick Bowness with one hire in terms of experience, but the Jets have brought in 2 somewhat experienced guys, as you say, with, assistant coaching background, head coaching. They've coached in junior, coached World Junior. So I think there's probably a good mix here. And again, the fact that Scott Arniel was tasked with making these hires, obviously he's the guy that you want to find a fit. Personality, I would imagine, has a big part of this, right? These guys are going to spend a ton of time together at home, on the road, in meetings. There's got to be a personality fit as well. And, I suspect Scott Arniel felt that there's a good mesh here. It was interesting to hear some of his comments to Kenny. He talked about how Davis Payne, he thought really related well to some young players. And we know Ottawa has a lot of young up-and-coming talent, whether it's, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, guys like that, Tim Stutzel, but also veteran guys. And he talked about, like a Claude Giroux and some veteran guys there. So, those are things when you look at the makeup of the Jets and potentially the transition. I know we're going to talk about Elias Salamonson here momentarily, but whether it's, Ville Heinola, Elias Salamonson, Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov, guys like that, Rutger McGroarty, not too far down the line, to have a coach like Davis Payne, who has been working closely with a lot of young, talented players as they break into the NHL. I think that's probably a good thing in his books.
Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's transition over to everything going on in the next few weeks with the Winnipeg Jets. And, first up, it's the draft. And again, we'll be live, I guess, a week tomorrow with a Winnipeg Sports Talk at the NHL Draft right through Saturday, presented by Coolbet. Make sure to check out all of those programs. Really looking forward to getting down there and being all over everything happening. There will be a development camp right afterwards. And development camp's always a chance for the new draft picks to come in, get familiarized with the organization. It's also an opportunity for previously drafted players to come, show up, and make a little statement before training camp that they are ready to go and think of me and your future plans. And from your conversation with Elias Salomonsson, it seems like the young Swedish defenseman is not only going to be here, but very much prepared and looking forward to putting his best foot forward to giving the team a very tough decision, or maybe an easy decision, to keep him on the squad. And that's even more important right now, considering the uncertain status moving forward for both Dylan DeMello, particularly on the right side, and Brandon Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have 4 defensemen signed as of today. Ville Heinola and Logan Stanley are RFAs, so they are under team control. So you could say that they have 6 in the mix. But, Nate Schmidt, Neil Pionk, Dylan Sandberg, Josh Morrissey, that's it. Brendan Dillon's a UFA. Dylan DeMello's a UFA. Colin White's a UFA. Kyle Capobianco's a UFA. So Elias Salomonsson, as we sit here today, you could very much make an argument that there's a potential job, to be won by him. And so I wanted to touch base with him. I know he's going to be here in a couple of weeks for development camp, which I believe, for those wondering, their free agency is on the Monday, the 1st. I believe the development camp is going to start on when they haven't sent the schedule out yet. I believe that it will start on the 3rd. But I think the on-ice component will start on the 4th. And I think it'll be the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. That's down at the Hockey for All Center, which, of course, will be open for folks to watch. And for folks who weren't out last summer, it's a real treat. A guy like Rucker McGroarty, he was a rock star there, signed every autograph, selfies, you name it. So it'll be a great chant. Rucker will be there again this summer. But so I wanted to talk to Elias before he got here, and coming off a championship that he just won with his men's team in Sweden. And, for those who maybe haven't followed him all that closely because he's not playing in the Canadian Hockey League, he's not playing in the U.S. college system, I think, out of sight, maybe out of mind a little bit, Huss. It's important to note that Elias Salomonsson, he has been playing against men. He hasn't been playing against his peers, his teenage peers. He's been playing against men in a men's league, and not just playing, but excelling. And in fact, playing a pivotal role in a team that just captured the championship. He was playing huge minutes. His primary role is not offense, but he certainly put up some offense. And I think the thing that maybe people don't know about Elias Salomonsson, and it's funny, I asked him about this and he kind of chuckled a bit. He plays with a real edge. Like, you look at his number, you look at his stat, he's 6 foot, like 176 or something. And you'd think, and European players get the reputation that they're not necessarily physical. He was suspended 3 times this past season. And he kind of laughed and said, yeah, I kind of crossed the line a little bit. He said, I can tell you, Huss, the Jets didn't mind that development 1 iota. In fact, they probably loved it. So he said that he knows he's got to play that way, and he in fact enjoys playing that way. So the fact that he's been playing against, big, strong men, the fact that he has been more than holding his own, kind of literally and figuratively, I'm not saying that he's going to come to camp and immediately be thrust into a top 6 role with the Jets. But I'm also not saying that, because I think they want to see what they have in this guy. And we know that he'll be playing in Winnipeg next season. The only question is he starting with the Jets or the Moose? That's why, it'll be interesting to see as we sit here, Huss, 2 weeks from now on July the 2nd, which, believe it or not, is 2 weeks from now. Like, there's a lot that's going to happen here in the next 13 days. But, we'll have a much better idea in 2 weeks from now what Winnipeg's NHL blue line looks like, because, in 2 weeks from now, we'll know whether they were able to re-sign Brendan Dillon or Dylan DeMello, or if those guys found new homes. And if they didn't re-sign either of those guys, did they go out and sign an established blue liner? And if they don't, then you could certainly make the argument that, my goodness, they are really keeping the door open for the kids. I got to think that the Jets have visions of being, where they were last year in terms of the regular season, that they wouldn't go into camp gifting an Elias Salomonsson a job. But I also suspect that they might be feeling like they want to give him an opportunity to win it. It's, in a way, Huss, it's not unlike the Kevin Stenlund situation last year. And I've had a lot of people ask me about Stenlund lately. Why didn't the Jets re-sign him? And they're watching him, play a shutdown role with Florida. the Jets, you may recall, Stenlund was an RFA last summer. The Jets did not qualify him. They let him become a UFA. Why did they do that? Because they had David Gustafsson, who they envisioned as being ready to take the fourth line center, and they didn't want to block that path. Now, you could argue in hindsight, especially with the way the penalty kill was, the Jets sure could have used Kevin Stenlund on the PK this year, because he's certainly a big part of Florida's penalty kill. But so we've seen examples where the Jets will give kids opportunities. I don't know how clear the path to full-time work right away for Elias Salomonson will be. Maybe they want him to get his feet wet a bit with the Moose. But from everything I've heard from this kid, heard about the kid, and seen, I don't think we should be surprised if he's making an impact sooner rather than later.
No, I'm with you. And listen, I mean, I'm the same way. It's not like I'm every day going to check out what's happening in the Swedish league, but I kind of feel like I followed them all. I got to give a shout out to Avco Cup with 2 A's on Twitter. Avco seemingly watches every one of these games. He's posting clips of it. I mean, it was great to follow through the playoffs. So shout out to him. Give him a follow if you haven't already. But I mean, like, to me, these two defense prospects are so intriguing. Ville Heinola, who we've seemingly been talking about forever, who is no longer waivers exempt, will get an opportunity to be in the lineup, I would imagine. I have a hard time. He would have to have a terrible camp, I think, not to be, to be honest, at that point, considering where he was going into the final preseason game last year. But honestly, I think that Elias is in a much better situation when it comes to potentially cracking the roster and playing with the Winnipeg Jets this year, if for no other reason that he's a right shot.
Yeah.
And we saw last year they wanted to maybe take a glimpse into the future, and they played him with Josh Morrissey. I'm not suggesting that if Dylan DeMello's not back, he's going to be plunked into that role with Morrissey. I am suggesting, though, that with the body of work he's had, not in junior hockey, but as you mentioned, playing with men, how he's excelled, how he's developed, I think they'd be far more open to giving a 19, 20-year-old defenseman significant opportunity and playing time in Elias's situation than maybe has been there for a few other highly ranked and drafted defensemen that have come before him.
For sure, and especially if they feel he's physically ready to handle it. And that's a big thing, right? Especially with a European coming over, getting adjusted to the size. Like, they don't want these young kids getting killed. And, again, I think they've seen enough from him to know that he can more than take care of himself. And you're right, the right shot, the right shot certainly helps in his case. I think looking long-term, him with Josh Morrissey, that is probably something we are going to see at some point. Would it be right off the hop? Who knows? I mean, again, right now, who is Josh Morrissey's partner next season? And if it's not Dylan DeMello, because he's a UFA, there is a significant job opening. And that would be a lot to ask of a kid who, as you mentioned, Salomonson, I think he turns 20 in August. That would be a lot to ask to step right into a role like that. But if he comes to camp and kind of shows that he's got the physical tool set, the mental tool set to handle, an expectation like that, then why not? One of the things he has going for him is he's on an entry level deal, and depending on how things shake out here in the next couple of weeks. That could be extremely valuable as well to the Jets to have some players on ELCs that are carrying that much lower cap hit.
Hey, Mike, before we go, do you have any inkling or indication as to the Nikolai Ehlers situation? I'm sort of the opinion that I think we get to the draft, it's relatively quiet. We might hear his name pop up in some rumors or whatever from some of the insiders, as inevitably happens when everyone's talking around. But I sort of see this as being like, I know a lot of times the Jets and any team will put something out for public consumption that might not be entirely rooted in fact, but I kind of do really buy into the fact that this isn't as much a front burner issue for the Jets, although it could become a front burner if a rival NHL GM came in with a real significant offer, as you would say for just about anybody on the roster. But are you sort of in the same spot for Ehlers, not expecting anything imminent or probably over the course of the time down in Vegas through July?
I am, and a big part of that, Huss, is just because I don't think the draft really matters when we're talking about a potential return for Ehlers. Like, it'd be one thing if the Jets were looking to just get a first round draft pick for him. I guess if a GM with a high pick were to make that offer, I mean, maybe Kevin Cheveldayoff wouldn't be able to say no, or maybe he would say yes and then flip that pick for something else. But again, I think the Jets are not rebuilding. And try selling, like, I'm just imagining how you would sell that to Connor Hellebuck, to Mark Scheifele, to say we just traded one of our best forwards for a draft pick that we hope can help us in 3 or 4 years from now. That, to me, that's not what the Jets are about right now. It really isn't. So when we talk about the draft and Ehlers, like, I just don't see that as some kind of real deadline, because I just don't think the draft really has any. Now, the draft is where all the GMs are together and naturally talk happens. Maybe the foundation for something could get laid. I just don't know that the draft, that we get a draft floor bombshell where, you know, the Jets have traded Ehlers for the 12th overall pick or something, because I don't think that's what they're in the market for. As nice as a return would be that could help you down the road, the Jets they're trying to win now. And, you know, I think it was interesting, wasn't it, to hear Scott Arniel, remind me, who was he on with late last week? He did an interview.
Sarah Valley.
Right. Yes, it was with Daily Face. So he said all the right things about Nikolai. Like, I don't know about you, Huss. I came away from that thinking Scott Arniel sounds like he wants Nikolai Ehlers, and he wants a chance to see what he as head coach could do with Nikolai Ehlers. Does Nikolai Ehlers feel the same way? And I imagine there's some conversations that have been happening. Like, that opens up maybe a door that we didn't necessarily think was open.
I brought that up a couple times before. I mean, like, listen, I know everyone's talking about, oh, this is a big trade chip. There's 1 year left. He's gone for sure. But I certainly will give a certain amount of a chance to Scott Arniel coming in with a very different outlook on Ehlers and where he fits into the club and his role than maybe Rick Bowness had. And listen, if you listen to that interview, you could certainly take it from that was the case. Now, again, I mean, take everything with a grain of salt for what is done from all management when it's, for public consumption. And sometimes, there's GMs negotiating with other GMs through the media.
Right.
Sometimes there are coaches getting out messages to players through the media. And maybe this was a bit of a part of it, but I'm here for it. The one thing I'll say is if the team figures, and I think this has a lot to do with how ready they think Brad Lambert is to make this next step. I don't rule out a trade of Ehlers that would include some sort of futures, because, I mean, it is important moving forward. If they feel like they've got someone that can come in and be a suitable replacement with a high upside, maybe they go that. Because at the end of the day, if you are making that move, you're making it for a number of reasons. What is the best interest of the hockey club overall? Right. And listen, I hear the narrative like, oh, what's Mark Scheifele going to say? Connor Hellebuck, those guys. Listen, they're signed for a long time. I think that they have bought into this, and I think that there's trust in moving forward with the decisions that the team's made. And it's not like they were paying a close attention to the Moose. I mean, I'm sure those guys are totally focused on what's going on. So if it does open up a path to get some of those younger players, maybe a little bit more time and a little bit more opportunity, playing with guys like that in the top six, I don't necessarily rule it out. And here's the other thing, that say it's a package that includes a first-round pick. Well, if the pick could be made now, the pick could be in the future. That is also an asset that can be used elsewhere, because if Ehlers is moved, I will say this, it's quite clear that there will be a hole there that they need to figure out. But also the thought is that if he was moved, maybe you're using that to fortify your blue line, which is seemingly more of a need right now for the Winnipeg Jets than it is up front.
Well, the other asset, of course, is cap space. And we expect the Jets are not a cheap organization, Huss. They've spent to at or near the cap ceiling for a number of seasons. And I think the expectation is, I mean, Mark Chipman himself has said as much. That will continue to be the plan going forward. It's part of why the Jets have launched an aggressive season ticket drive. They don't want to just exist as one of the 32 teams. They want to be a team that can comfortably spend where needed and obviously try and reach their goal of a Stanley Cup. So you're right. If Ehlers were to get moved and if it did include a future type package, at the very least, it clears up cap space that we would expect the Jets to weaponize in some way, whether that was for a forward replacement or something on the blue line. And isn't it interesting? One of the names the Jets have apparently been connected to is Martin Necas, who is he's a lot like Nikolai Ehlers, right? And I don't imagine the Jets are sniffing around Martin Necas unless Nikolai Ehlers is not part of the team. Like, I don't think they're bringing in Necas on top of Nikolai Ehlers. And if they are, how in the world are they addressing the blue line and what's that look like? So a lot of intrigue for sure. The good news is we're getting closer to at least answering some of the burning questions about the Jets, Huss, because the calendar is going to force some answers here. As hard as it is to believe, because they're still playing the Stanley Cup, we're starting to see business picking up. And I see Barclay Goodrow just got put on waivers today because the Rangers are going to buy him out. And the rumor is Jeff Skinner is going to get bought out. Things are starting to happen. If the Stanley Cup ends tonight, business could really pick up as early as tomorrow as the buyout period starts to open.
Well, it's going to give us a lot to talk about the next couple of weeks. Give us a lot to talk about tonight, the ball game. Hope to see you there, Mike, and we'll find out later on whether you're going to be in Edmonton for Game 6, depending on what happens in this game tonight. Appreciate it. Again, gang, Winnipeg Free Press and winnipegfreepress.com right now with Mike's piece and interview with Elias Salmonson. I wanted to be on the team just so we can use the old WWE walk with Elias. I'm ready to walk with Elias, Mike.
I actually tried to find a way to use that in the story. I just could not make it work. I also wondered how many people would necessarily get it. I knew you would. But yeah, I'm sure at some point we will definitely. We already got the Pionky Tonk Man, which I use all the time, Huss, and I always give credit to you for that one. That is a gem. For that reason alone, Neil Pionk needs to remain a part of the Winnipeg Jets for the foreseeable future, because I don't know how many times I'll be in the press box and I'll reference, well, there's Pionky Tonk Man going for the guitar smash. So yeah, the more wrestling references, the better.
Never gets old. Thanks a lot for doing this, Mike. Great to have you.
Take care. We'll see you later.
Speaking of assistant coaches, we've got a great chat coming up with Morgan Klimchuk, who is the new assistant coach of the Manitoba Moose. We're going to do that in just a minute. By the way, I'm just looking. We've got Lapo to 398. So Remis, if you can, throw the link again in the chat, folks. We need to get to 400. For Lapo. I think that guarantees return visits on WST if we can give him the WST bump on the subs right now. So just go over to his YouTube channel, just press that subscribe button. We need 2 more to get to our goal today of 400. Please help us out. And great to have Lapo and great to have Mike on the program. And we're going to be talking to Morgan Klimchuk coming up in just a couple of minutes. You know what? Tonight, going to be getting down to the ballpark. If you are in the beautiful Wolseley area, you might want to pop down to next door at 116 Sherbrooke, adjacent to Good Neighbor Brewing. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. They're working on a big cornhole league down there that the response has been amazing for. But tomorrow night is Wingy Wednesday. And you remember that. Wingy Wednesday, pound of wings, $15. And the coolest part is they crank out the sauce cart where they've got 14 house-made sauces, and you can mix and match as much as you want on them. Of course, the Cosmos boys, the brains behind Hoagie Boys, and all those incredible eats down at the Beer Can. Also serving up the good stuff down at Next Door at 116 Sherbrooke. Hoagie Boys, of course, always open till 7 o'clock each and every day. And the Beer Can is the spot to be after Seabears games. They've got bear pong, prizes, and more. Seabears playing tomorrow night. If you are heading to the game, it's going to be nice outside. Walk down to the Beer Can afterwards for a little post-game fun with our friends at the Beer Can. Our pals at Royal Sports are busy right now, getting ready for the rest of summer and looking ahead to the hockey season. I know Greg's out buying stuff. He's down in Salt Lake City. He's been in Montreal. And that's why Royal has the biggest and best selection of stock, period. Not to mention the most square footage of any sports store you've probably ever seen in your life. Whether it's licensed merchandise for your favorite teams or maybe your favorite countries right now with all the soccer going on with Euro and Copa, the best selection of Canada soccer stuff around. Canada-Argentina on Thursday and the Copa to kick things off. It's all there at Royal. And while you're at it, if you're playing soccer, softball, baseball, running, tennis, they got you set up, and a great selection of bikes as well. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, if you're not joining us tonight at the ballpark, the next best place to be is your local Boston Pizza, because we got Game 5 of the Cup Final. Might have to hit BP right after the game for the third period. Of course, the playoff menu is still in full effect. The wing flights, you get 3 different flavors, the Sicilian square footer pizza, the jalapeno popper dip, of course, ice cold schooners, and the game on the big screen with big sound. Make it Boston Pizza tonight. The next time you get together with your gang to watch the big game, and if you are staying at home, you can order online and get hot and fast to your door like I did last night at bostonpizza.com. And a big shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I'm counting down the days to getting out to Aikens later on this summer. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing destination where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including the flight, Aikens is the spot. Absolutely incredible fishing and even better hospitality. A perfect corporate outing as well if you're looking to get some people together that you've just been Zooming with for the last couple of years. Go to aikenslake.com. You can find out different options for stays, and you can also contact them about availability for the remainder of the 2024 fishing season over at aikenslake.com. All right, we'll talk Cup Final tonight. We'll get to the Coolbet lines. CFL lines are out as well a little bit later on. Our picks for the track tonight. But right now, let's welcome in the new assistant coach under Mark Morrison with the Manitoba Moose, former NHLer first rounder Morgan Klimchuk. Morgan, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Congrats on the new gig. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It must be an exciting time for you. I mean, moving on up a couple years in the Western Hockey League, and now moving to the American Hockey League here in Winnipeg with the Moose. Fill us in on how it all came together, and what was the process like of applying and getting your first professional coaching gig?
Yeah, ultimately came as a little bit of a surprise, seeing as I did recently just extend in Victoria. But yeah, an opportunity was presented actually through one of the connections with the Royals to ultimately interview with Manitoba and Mark and Craig there, and so started with remote interviews and then ultimately flying in to meet with the staff, and process took place over the course of a couple of weeks, and ultimately was offered the job and very, very happy to accept. Very excited for the opportunity.
Now, people remember you as a late first rounder in 2013. You played pro for, a number of seasons in the American Hockey League, and really kind of finished up your pro career right as everything shut down for COVID. Tell us a little bit about ending your career and the decision to get into coaching.
Yeah, ultimately, kind of like you touched on there, I was in Belleville in the American Hockey League that COVID season, the infamous COVID season, and was really starting to have some issues with my back that hadn't been properly diagnosed, definitely hadn't been treated properly. So ultimately, had to go through that process very early on in COVID. Tried to do a little less invasive procedures to ultimately get back playing, but didn't have a ton of success with that, and ultimately needed a full back surgery. I did a disc replacement in my lower back, and then I still was hungry to play. I was training and attempting to come back. I believe it was almost 2 years removed by the time I was fully healed from that surgery. And then unfortunately blew my shoulder out again for the third time. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries on the same shoulder. And then, it happened again a third time. And at that point in time, I would have had to go through another full 6 to 8 months surgery and recovery from that, and would have been 3 to 4 years removed from playing. So felt like it wasn't meant to be. And ultimately I got very quickly got into the coaching side of things, more so on the private development side. And I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I always enjoyed just helping my friends and teammates and whatever, just improving, more so as individual players, kind of through what I was doing and just helping, again, people that were around and genuinely loved it. So kind of jumped in head first to the development side of things here in Calgary, and then ultimately took a bench coaching job with a prep school here, the Edge Hockey Academy, and loved that far more than I think I initially anticipated. Enjoying it, and the rest is kind of history. Went to Victoria after that, and obviously now joining Manitoba.
Well, and let's talk about the time in Victoria, because of course the head coach is a very familiar face and name to everyone here in Winnipeg, and his former ice coach James Patrick. What was it like working with Jeep, and how did that help prepare you for the next level and moving on to the American League?
Yeah, it was fantastic having the chance to work with him. I think if you talk about guys that have real storied, careers, and the amount of games he's played, and then ultimately the amount of games he's coached, there's not a lot of more knowledgeable people or more experienced people than I've been around in the game. So getting a chance to work with him truly was an honor. And, for me, he helped me with so many things. I think actually in Victoria, I was running the defense. So that was, a little bit outside my comfort zone, I would say, ultimately when I got started. But to have someone, again, with that much experience and just understanding so many little things that even people that have been around the game or coaching the game for a while might not often talk about, that again, really helped me ultimately help the players. And then, again, just seeing the preparation and just the delivery of how he manages and organizes a team was, again, something that I'll forever be thankful for.
Morgan, I've got to ask you just about the transition, the relatively quick transition from a player. You're a star in the Western League. You basically move on to the American League. I mean, grinding as a professional. You've been a player your whole life. The prep school is a little different maybe, but going to the Dub where you played for so long, what was the biggest transition from the mindset of a player to the job that you had to do each and every day with Victoria as an assistant?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately it. When you talk about what really goes into being a successful coach from a team perspective, and ultimately helping the players develop as individuals. I think just really the routine and the structure that goes into that. If you think about it from a player's perspective, game ends, you're usually focusing on kind of recovering and then maybe disconnecting a little bit and getting ready kind of for the next one, maybe the next morning. But on the coaching side of things, it's, just reviewing everything that went down. And obviously there's a lot of later nights and earlier mornings with that. So again, just getting comfortable with the routine and the processes and the structure required to, again, just really allow the group as a collective and as individuals to take their best step forward was, I would say the biggest learning curve early on.
Morgan Klimchuk, new Moose assistant coach, is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I imagine, at this point, and certainly moving on to the pro ranks where, you played for a long time, but similarly in the Western League, when you get introduced into that new role, you lean on a number of your mentors and coaches that you've had in the past for the things that have worked well. I'm sure James Patrick would be one of those, but when you look back to your playing career, is there coaches that you worked with that were particularly impactful on you that, maybe some of their teachings are emulated in what you bring to the table?
Absolutely. I think, from a tactical standpoint, there's definitely pieces from different coaches, whether it was, again, a bench coach or a development coach that I found really helped me and allowed, me to connect with that individual a little bit more and ultimately get the most out of myself. But, again, the process, I think, that goes into ultimately helping players. One guy that really sticks out to me would be Ryan Huska, who's currently in Calgary. I had Husk for my first, I want to say 3 full years in the American Hockey League. And for me, that first year of pro was a challenging year. The transition from junior to pro was a challenge for me. And to now have lived it on the other side and just kind of understand what really goes into it, the amount of time that's required to ultimately do the job of a professional coach. And I look back with Ryan, he was a guy that ultimately, he probably watched, I would say 75% of my games start to finish with me one-on-one as a head coach in the American Hockey League. And again, just to now really understand the time commitment that he put into just helping an individual player, take those steps and try to improve is something that I'll never forget. And I really do try to, again, emulate that process and just that time and genuine care with everyone I work with, because, again, from my individual perspective, that's something I'll never forget and will forever appreciate.
Well, and Morgan, I mean, admittedly, you're moving from a junior league to the American Hockey League, but the American Hockey League is a very young league with a number of really young players kind of transitioning like you did from junior to the pro ranks. You're not even 30 years old yet. I mean, do you think that your age and your recent experience, how much of an asset will be, or do you hope it to be, when working with a number of these young players with maybe a little bit of a different experience base and outlook than an older coach like your new boss and Mark?
Yeah, I do see that as a strength. It is just my ability to really relate, and very recently relate with what all the players are going through. Again, I do believe the league's getting quite young, and but there's still a good mix of veteran players who can kind of be role models for the younger guys, and ultimately being able to help those guys as well. But yeah, again, I've lived it very recently with some decent success and also some very challenging times. So being able to, again, just work through a number of those challenges with majority of the players is something that I do think is a strength of mine. And ultimately just, being a younger guy, you have a slightly different lens, a slightly different scope on, again, what are guys going through and how can we potentially help them take that final step and play full time.
Morgan, tell us about the conversations with Mark Morrison, and do you know exactly what your role is going to be? I mean, working with one of the special teams units, forward, defense. I mean, how will that all look when you get to work this fall?
Yeah, the conversations with Mark have been excellent. I think ultimately that's a big reason of why I'm so excited to ultimately come to Manitoba, is to get a chance to work with him. He's been unbelievable in terms of, again, just being a good person and making me feel very welcome and comfortable so far after ultimately accepting the job. And in terms of the role, I think, again, it's a development league, so the whole coaching staff is going to work closely with all the players, but I do anticipate having a pretty big hand in working with the forwards and the forward development and the power play primarily.
Morgan, while we've got you here, we're fired up to get down to Vegas next week. And by the way, folks, we'll WST at the NHL draft beginning on Wednesday from Vegas, presented by Coolbet. You're not going to want to miss those shows. You heard your name. I believe that was the Philly draft, 2013?
It was Jersey.
Oh, Jersey. All right.
Yep.
We kind of get them mixed up. What do you remember about draft week, the combine, and then hearing your name called and going up to the podium in the first round?
Yeah, I remember it being a bit of a whirlwind. I think, kind of once you get through that first year of junior, it does really start to get go for a number of years there with, ultimately the combine, the draft, development camps, and the national team camps and things like that. So I remember being a very busy time. I think that that draft week for sure was a bit stressful. Ultimately, you want to kind of figure out where you're going to go, in terms of the pick itself and ultimately the team. So I was a little bit nervous for sure, but ultimately, when it was all said and done, getting a chance to be drafted by my hometown team and again be picked where I was picked was something I'll never forget and cherish for as long as I I'm still in this game.
You know, it was the same year that Josh Morrissey was selected. Just thinking about your time in the Western Hockey League, you must have had plenty of shifts against Josh back in the Dub.
Yeah, for sure. I actually saw Josh yesterday morning. He's skating here in Calgary, so I had a good catch up with him. He's he's been a good friend of mine pretty much growing up. We played against each other more so for as long as I can remember, our whole minor hockey career, and then got a chance to play together in a number of things, whether it was spring hockey, which maybe is changing. The landscape's changing a little bit now, but spring hockey back then, and again, all the Hockey Alberta, Team Canada stuff, and still keeping very close touch with them. Went to Josh's wedding, and I'm super excited for how things are going. He's obviously one of the premier defensemen in the league now, and that's for good reason. He's a great person and one of the hardest workers I know.
Well, you'll have a good pal already waiting for you when you get to town, ready to get to work with the Manitoba Moose. I have to ask you just on the way out, Morgan. We know how dedicated pro athletes are right now, and the work that you have to put in during the summer to get ready to play an 82-game season, hopefully a long playoff run. Now that you're retired as a coach, we know there's probably way more hours during the actual season. But do you get to enjoy your summer more now that you're retired and a coach than back when you were playing and having to get ready to be in top shape for the beginning of camp?
The honest answer would be not quite yet. I do anticipate at some point in time in my coaching career to take a little bit of a step back in the off season. But for me, I ultimately got my start in coaching, working again in private development in Calgary, and that's a commitment that the person that I'm working for, the gym that I'm working for at Crash Conditioning is currently still where I'm at. I'm actually there right now, and it's a commitment that I will fulfill throughout this summer for sure. Just gives me a chance to really just again hone my craft and ultimately get a chance to work with players ranging from, I think our youngest athletes are 2010s all the way up to our pro group. So you get a real wide array of challenges, both from a group perspective and from an individual perspective that I do value as a coach. It's continuing to help me grow and again, just add tools to my tool belt. So no, I wouldn't say it's as much time off, honestly, now even coaching than it was as a player. It's quite busy, but again, I love it. And it's a big part of helping me ultimately become the coach that I am.
Well, Morgan, it's great to have you on the program just on the way out. I mean, what are you most excited about and looking forward to about this new challenge and opportunity of moving to the American Hockey League with the Manitoba Moose?
Yeah, ultimately just working with the players that are one step away from fulfilling their dream full time. I think if to have the chance to really again help those whoever it is, forwards, D, any of the players in the organization, just ultimately improve each and every day, and maybe get a chance to see them wear the Winnipeg Jets jersey and again play at that highest level is ultimately one of the biggest reasons that I accepted the job and one of the most exciting parts of it for me. I had a small taste of what that challenge is like and ultimately what it's like when you get a chance to do it for the first time. And you never forget the people along the way that helped you. And I aim to be one of those people for hopefully more guys than not in the Jets organization.
Well, Morgan, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's great to have you back in Manitoba. Of course, you've got still fans in Brandon during your time with the Wheat Kings coming over in that trade at the end of your career. And we'll look forward to seeing you in September when we get going with another year of hockey, both for the Winnipeg Jets and the Manitoba Moose, and wish you nothing but the success in this next path in your coaching journey.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm very excited to get down there, and thanks again for having me.
All right, good stuff with Morgan Klimchuk. Appreciate him joining us. And, speaking of young coaches, 29 years old. I mean, as I mentioned, played with Josh Morrissey, played against Josh Morrissey, drafted in the first round of the same year, and already a couple years into his coaching career and now moving on to the American Hockey League. We'll look forward to catching up with him, I'm sure, throughout Moose season here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, a couple things to get to. First off, and this goes back to our conversation with Mike, I want to get to the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp and Waverly and McGillivray. And this is just an interesting question to see where you all are at right now when it comes to next year. I'm going to just ask you this for the why not question of the day. Ville Heinola or Elias Salmonsson? Who plays more NHL games next year with the Winnipeg Jets? Ville or Elias? Vote. Give us your take in the chat right now for our Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. A quick Breezy Bend golf update. Yesterday we talked about the flame up by Rory McIlroy at the U.S. Open. No one had heard from Rory since he peeled out 5 minutes after the tournament and was probably already in the air by the time Bryson got the trophy on Sunday. Rory did come out with a statement yesterday. And I'll just read it to you quickly. Yesterday was a tough day, probably the toughest I've had in my nearly 17 years as a pro golfer. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Bryson. He's a worthy champion and exactly what professional golf needs right now. I think we can all agree on that. As I reflect on my week, I'll rue a few things over the course of the tournament, mostly the 2 missed putts on 16 and 18 on that final day. But as I always try to do, I'll look at the positives of the week that far outweigh the negatives. As I said at the start, I feel closer to winning my next major championship than I ever have. The one word that I would describe my career is as resilient. I've shown my resilience over and over again in the last 17 years, and I will again. I'm going to take a few weeks away from the game to process everything and build myself back up for my defense of the Genesis Scottish Open and the Open at Royal Troon. See you in Scotland. So no Rory for the Travelers this week. It is an elevated event. But man, that guy played the Canadian Open, then went to the Memorial, then went to the Open. We all saw what happened to the U.S. Open. We all saw what happened. Very tough run for Rory, and I hope he takes this time, and I hope he's back, and I hope he's in contention at the Open at Troon later on this summer. Of course, our golf report is brought to you by our friends at Breezy Bend. If you're interested in making Breezy a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, give the clubhouse a call. Ask for our pal Corey Johnson to fill you in on looking ahead to next year. And you can certainly talk to Corey or go online to breezybend.ca for more information on the course, as well as an incredible venue for hosting weddings. Tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Of course, we got the Gold Eyes game tonight. Looking forward to that. Fish at home throughout the week. We, of course, have picked a day that is probably not as nice as some of the others. We're going to have a great time tonight, though. And they are at home from today right through until Sunday as part of the season-long 9-game homestand. Team on a heater right now. Can't wait to see you all tonight. And goldeyes.com for more information on groups, maybe doing a patio party like we're doing tonight for your business or group. It's all there at goldeyes.com. And for those of you there at the game tonight, you can find out more information on that, and you'll get to see it firsthand. Don't forget, we're going to have a table 5:30 to 6:30 in front of Will Call. We'll be there. We'll give you the wristbands and get you set up. If you're coming after 6:30 at Will Call, our buddy Will Sutton will take care of you with the remaining wristbands. All right. We got a game tonight. We haven't talked a ton about the Stanley Cup Final today, but let's do it right now, Remis, as I pull up the Coolbet lines and remind you all, WST at the NHL Draft presented by Coolbet begins next Wednesday through the weekend from Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, Reem, I see some money coming in on the Panthers. The line right now, Panthers minus 139 to win. Oilers plus 118 to win and get the series back to South Florida. Where are you at on this game tonight? Is it curtains? Will there be popping bottles in the club in South Florida, or will they be getting on a plane after Game 5?
Yeah, I want to say, we're giving a 6, possibly 7, but I think Panthers wrap it up and we get to see Paul Maurice raising the Stanley Cup over his head real high. And imagine the Paul Maurice post-game press conference after winning the cup. I'm excited for this more than I thought I would be.
Imagine the Paul Maurice press conference after blowing a 3-0 lead.
Oh man,
and losing in 7.
That would be equally crazy. So that would be equally crazy. So I'm gonna have to set the PVR. We'll be at the Gold Eyes game, but I think we have a couple volunteers in chat who've sacrificed their data for the month to use the game on their phone for updates. But I'll
be one of those people as well. Ken will definitely be one of those people.
You know what? Oilers, I mean, if you want to bet, Oilers are plus money. Like, every game's been close. Like, you're probably better off just betting the Oilers. But you asked me what I thought. I think Panthers take it here. There we go.
Total in the game is 5.5. I think the Oilers have to play like they did in game 6 and 7 against Vancouver. Like Odog on Overdrive yesterday was saying that he thinks that they need to go in there and plan to win a 1-0 game and really keep it tight because the Oilers will be able to make something out of their chances, although they didn't earlier on. But now they've got to Bob. I don't know. It should be a real fun one. We will have it on some phones at the game. And if you do like the Panthers by 2, plus 190 on the puck line for tonight. I like Connor McDavid to score. I think McDavid, he's been so brilliant with the assists. He's got that record. He's not going down without putting his best forward. I think that's going to mean maybe doing a little bit more himself. Plus 140 for a McDavid goal tonight. I like that. What do we got here? Euro. We've got a game going on right now, 0-0, Portugal and Czechia. Tomorrow, 3 good games. Early, the 8 a.m. game is Croatia and Albania. Croatia a minus 200 favorite on the 3-way. Germany, the host Germans, a big favorite, minus 357 in the 3-way against the Hungarians. And Switzerland, the Swiss, minus 111 favorites against Scotland in the 2 p.m. game. And, of course, Canada, Argentina kick off the Copa on Thursday. We'll get a soccer guy on for Thursday to tee that one up. Canada, massive underdog, more than 10-1, plus 430 on the draw. And Argentina, minus 323 to win on the 3-way. Canada plays Peru in their second game. And Canada's actually a slight favorite in that game. Plus 138 for Canada, plus 220 for the draw, plus 215 for Peru. But the big test, with all eyes on them, playing against the GOAT, Lionel Messi, Thursday night. That is going to be a heck of a lot of fun to check out. All right. We got to get to the rest of the lines tonight. We should mention the Blue Jays. Jays are playing the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox minus 125 road favorites. Jays plus 106. Jays now 2 games under 500 after dropping the opener of the series tomorrow. And Travelers odds are up right now. We're going to dive into that tomorrow in the lock shop. Scotty Scheffler, the favorite, at 4-1. Xander 7-1. Morikawa 11-1 at the top of the leaderboards. Again, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. We should congratulate, if you missed it yesterday, let me just get where the heck is my doc? Our first 2 qualifiers for our Labor Day contest were announced yesterday. And where did I put them, Remis? Here we are. Shout out to Mark Mfanasuk. And Mark is a loyal lock shopper. And Keith Dirksen. Both Mark and Keith have a marble. We're going to be doing the marble race in second week of August to give the trip away. Transport to and from Regina, from Winnipeg, 2 nights hotel, tickets to the Labor Day Classic, some Coolbet swag, some great swag from our tour, and it'll be on the Huss Bus, hosted by yours truly. To enter this contest, it is for Cool Betters. If you're playing at Coolbet, bet $10 or more on the Canadian Football League. If you want to do 2 $5 bets, that's cool too. Just take a screen cap of your bet, send it in to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. We'll be qualifying people every week on WST. And as I say, someone and a guest will be joining us on the trip. And if you do want more information on that tour, by the way, there are limited seats available, but would love to have you join us. Go on to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X at the 1930, the 1930 crew. And you can get in touch with Pat and JB and they'll get you set up, and you can join us. So lots going on, and again, look forward for everyone joining us tonight for the Coolbet WST Koozie. We'll be giving everybody, and keep an eye out for us at future Bomber games. We'll be handing these out as well. All right, Reem, I will admit, with everything going on, I was a little delinquent in getting ready for the track tonight. So I'm sort of looking here at the picks. I think I might need you to make your selections first, and then I can get into it and make something happen. Make my picks happen. This is race 7.
Yeah, sure. One sec. I'm just responding to another chat. I'll do that all later. Yeah, I got my picks out. One sec. I'm all set. I don't know how you did yesterday, Huss.
I did terrible. I was over.
Okay. I hit one of my winners of the 4. However, on my $5 bet, I only took home like $7.75. So I was still in the negative, but did better than you. So that's what matters. I'm trying to make up some serious ground. I think you got
chipping away.
You got a $90 lead on me. I started off really slow. I went a bit more conservative. But today's a weird day at the track, Huss. A lot of scratches, so there's some short races. I felt very limited in what I could bet on here. Maybe that's just me. But I'm starting off race 3. Let me bring it up. Race 3, I got a 3-5 exacta, Salto, Dale, Lupo, and Shiver.
I've just put in a $2 exacta box for $4 on Shiver and Thirsty Ears.
Thirsty Ears. All right. What is that
Thirsty
like?
Ears. Race the
Good.
horse number 2.
Good mental image, Thirsty Ears. Just picturing pouring like a nice beer bet they're gonna have tonight at the game, just right into your ear. Race 4, I got my Noah to win. This is a big favorite. The program selection, the AI smart pick. This is gonna be my chalk pick of the night. My Noah to win race 4.
I've got the upset.
Oh, okay.
I'm going with Crowned Royal. I always loved that horse from last year. It has been good. I've never seen this before. 4 of the 6 horses got scratched in race 5. How did they even do a race with 2 horses?
It's head-to-head. It's like Michael Johnson versus Donovan Bailey when they raced head-to-head in the, what was that, 150 meters?
Should I do an exacta box? 1/6 exacta box?
Yeah, do it. See what happens. See what it pays out. I'm curious.
Well, we're really gonna need to run here on race number 6. Who do I like here for?
Yeah, do you want me to tell you who I got?
Yeah, you go. Oh, I know one horse.
I did an exacta box 4, 7. That is Rydom and Terawatt, although I should have done shooting money.
What about shooting money?
I should have done shoot. Yesterday we joked about the A-Ladies and, what was it? A-Ladies and
Lady Nyla?
Not Lady Nyla. The other one won. A-Ladies got second and, I won. And I was so rattled that we joked about doing that exacta box. I'll bring it up.
Gaga.
No, Lady Gaga. Lipstick Lady.
Oh.
Lipstick Lady. And A-Ladies took it. So we joked about that, but I don't know if I don't have shooting money, but maybe I should. I might have to make it maybe I'll change it to a trifecta and put Terawatt, Rydom, and shooting money. I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna take Rydom. Asano's back is in all of these. I like the win percentage here. This is sort of a very wide open race.
You see this Orcadian Storm 12-1. It's the AI smart pick for 3rd place. I find that interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna go Rydom. Definitely gonna lead on Rydom. I think they like Asano's back because it's going down. You know what? I'm not going with them. Rydom, Arcadian Storm, and Rail Splitter. 1, 4, 5. There we go. That's going to be my $1 Triacta. Got to get Rydam in there. Rail Splitter, and I think that's going to leave me $2 left, and I'll put it on Rydam to win.
Oh, okay. And then I'm on race 7, Senior Jobim to win. A bit of a longer shot, but that's what I'm rocking. Senior Jobim.
I went
race
with the
7.
7-8 exacta.
Club
champ.
Yeah, Club Champ's good.
An exchequer. And I actually have $4 left, so it's going to go $4 to win. Rydam. My buddies bought and sold that horse in a matter of 2 weeks last year. I'm not sure whether it's still in the family. So there you go. Track tonight. If you are planning on getting out there tonight or any other night, see if they have a spot in the dining room for that incredible prime rib buffet. Cannot encourage you enough. And actually, we're going to do a little pick'em contest where some of you will win a couple tickets to come and join us and enjoy the buffet. We're going to be doing that with the Assiniboia Downs in July. HPIBet.com if you want to bet remotely. AS Downs on YouTube for the entire broadcast from Kirk and Stretch. And all the information coming up at AssiniboiaDowns.com. All right, we went long. And, a couple hours from now, we're going to be opening up the table and welcoming WSTers down to the ballpark. Again, we'll have a table right in front of Will Call. Grab your wristbands from us. If it's after 6:30, after the first pitch, Will in the box office, in the Will Call window, we'll have them for you. And pop up, grab a cold one. We'll grab you a koozie, and you can put something in it. May I suggest a generic from Little Brown Jug? And get some food and have a great time at the ball game tonight. And, of course, keep our eye on the Stanley Cup Final as well. Remo, this is going to be fun. Bundle up if you need to. I think the wind's going to be dying down, actually, though, looking at what it is. It's about 25 right now. It should get less than 20. As long as the rain stays away, we'll be good. The team has been hot, and these are always fun, getting together with everybody, and should be a great one tonight.
Yeah, going to be great seeing everyone, getting out to the ballpark, get a look at that new, beautiful, big scoreboard, seeing all the great concession options. I'm looking forward to it. Should be real fun seeing everyone tonight.
You got it. Thanks to Paul LaPolice. Again, if you haven't already, give him a sub over at his YouTube channel. We'll put a link in the description, or just search Paul LaPolice. Of course, Mike McIntyre, who joined us, and Morgan Klimchuk as well. Real fun show today. It should be a fun evening. For everyone that got tickets, thank you for the support. We'll see you at the ballpark tonight. Everyone else, see you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good night tonight, and go Fish!
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.